I have all the information and a clear plan to execute the request. I will now proceed with writing the story. What if the most beautiful melody of your life was played by someone you never expected, in a place you'd least imagine? Get ready for a captivating love story about fate, music, and a connection that defies all odds. Tell us in the comments where in the world you're tuning in from, and let's dive into this special moment together. The jarring sound of his phone cut through the silence of Adrian Morrison's office at 6:30 p.m. on a Friday. He didn't even look up from his computer screen, absorbed in financial reports that would determine the future of yet another multi-million-dollar corporate acquisition. Morrison Holdings, Adrian speaking. Mr. Morrison, this is Dr. Thomas Grant from Grant & Associates Law Firm. I need to speak with you about an urgent matter. Adrian sighed, adjusting his glasses. A legal issue, certainly related to the real estate contracts that moved millions every month. Go ahead, doctor. Which contract is in question? Mr. Morrison, it's not about business. It's about an inheritance. Did you know Clara Sutton? The name hit him like a punch to the gut. Adrian dropped his pen, feeling the air escape his lungs. Clara. The woman he had met 3 years ago at a conference in Paris. 3 months of intense dates, of late-night conversations, of a passion he had stifled when he realized he was getting too attached. Yes, I did. Why are you speaking in the past tense? I'm sorry to inform you, but Mrs. Sutton passed away in a traffic accident 2 months ago. She left a will, and you are named as the father of her son. Adrian's world collapsed. He stood up abruptly, knocking over his chair. That's impossible. I don't have children. There must be some mistake. Mr. Morrison, we have all the documentation here. Tests were done when the child was born. The mother's request. Adrian's legs felt weak. A son. He had a son. Clara had gotten pregnant and never told him. Why? Where is the child? Currently under the care of the Sutton family, but according to the will, guardianship must be transferred to you. We need to schedule an urgent meeting. 2 hours later, Adrian was sitting in a cold conference room, facing 3 adults who looked at him with a mixture of distrust and despair. At the table, Dr. Grant organized a pile of documents that seemed to seal his fate. This is Isabella Sutton, Clara's sister, the lawyer introduced, gesturing to a woman in her mid-20s, with brown hair in a simple ponytail and green eyes filled with contained tears. And these are Clara's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Robert and Margaret Sutton. Adrian tried to greet them, but the coldness was palpable. Isabella didn't even look up. Where is Leo? He asked, his voice hoarse with emotion. With the nanny, Isabella replied, finally looking at him. We didn't think it was appropriate to bring him into this situation. Situation? He's my son. Your son? Isabella stood up, her eyes flashing. Where were you when Clara was up all night with him, sick? Where were you when she worked 2 jobs to support Leo? Where were you when she needed help? Adrian felt the weight of guilt. Had Clara never tried to contact him? Why hadn't she asked for help? I didn't know he existed, he murmured. She tried to call you several times when she found out she was pregnant, Margaret interrupted, her voice choked with emotion. Your secretary always said you were in a meeting, too busy. The memory hit him like a knife. He had given his secretary clear instructions. No calls from Clara were to be put through. He wanted to cut all ties, to avoid getting more attached. What an idiot he had been. I made a terrible mistake, he admitted, running his hands through his hair. But I'm here now. I want to meet my son. Meet him? Isabella laughed bitterly. Leo isn't a business you can acquire when it's convenient. He's a child who lost his mother and is traumatized. He needs stability, not a stranger who shows up out of the blue. Dr. Grant interceded. Legally, Mr. Morrison has the right to guardianship, but I suggest we make a gradual transition for the sake of the child. He can visit, Robert conceded, the first to speak. But Leo stays with us. We're not handing our grandson over to a stranger. I'm his father, Adrian insisted, feeling a strange determination grow in his chest. I have responsibilities. Responsibilities? Isabella leaned over the table. Then prove it. Prove that you won't abandon him as soon as you find out that being a father is harder than closing a business deal. The challenge in her green eyes unsettled him in a way he couldn't explain. There was something about the intensity of this woman that made him nervous. All right, he finally agreed. We'll do it gradually, but I want to see him tomorrow. When he left the office, it was already night. Adrian drove to his penthouse, an impeccable and cold place where he had lived for 5 years. For the first time, he noticed the deathly silence that reigned there. He picked up his phone and canceled all his weekend plans. Then he stood for a long time at the window, looking at the city lights, thinking about a child he didn't even know, but who carried his blood, Leo, his son. Across town, Isabella was putting her nephew to sleep for the 100th time since Clara had died. Leo had woken up crying again, calling for his mother. "She's not coming back, my love," she whispered, stroking the boy's curly hair. "But I'm here. I'll always be here." Isabella's heart ached. How could she explain to a 2-year-old that the father he never knew now wanted to be a part of his life? When Leo finally fell asleep, Isabella left the room and found her parents in the kitchen, still shaken by the meeting. "We can't hand Leo over to that man," she blurted out. "He's cold, calculating ag. He doesn't understand anything about children." "Isa, he's the father," Robert sighed. "We have no choice." "Yes, we do. We can fight for custody. Show that Leo needs love, not money." Margaret touched her daughter's arm. "What if he really wants to be a good father? Clara chose him as Leo's father for a reason." "Clara was in love," Isabella shot back. "He used her and discarded her. I won't let him do the same to Leo." That night, while Adrian was Googling how to care for a 2-year-old, Isabella was planning how to protect her nephew from the man she considered a threat to the only family she had left. Neither of them The next day's meeting would change their lives. The unlikeliest pact, Adrian arrived at the Sutton family's house at 10 in the morning, carrying a bag full of expensive toys he had bought at a department store. He didn't know what a 2-year-old liked, so he bought a little bit of everything: remote-controlled cars, building blocks, imported plushies. The house was simple but cozy. A small garden with well-kept flowers, a porch with white plastic chairs, and the sound of children's laughter coming from the backyard. It was so different from his minimalist apartment. Isabella opened the door before he even rang the doorbell. She wore a simple blouse and jeans, her hair loose, framing her face. Without makeup, she looked younger, more vulnerable. "You're early," she said, without hiding her irritation. "I couldn't sleep," Adrian admitted. "I brought some things for Leo." She looked at the bag with skepticism. "He doesn't need expensive toys. He needs attention." "I can give him both," he replied. "We'll see." Isabella led him through the house. Adrian noticed the photos scattered throughout the living room. Clara at various moments in her life, many with Leo in her arms. A strange pang of pain squeezed his chest. He had lost so much time. "Leo!" Isabella called, stopping at the back door. "There's someone here who wants to meet you." A small child crawled toward them, stopping abruptly when he saw Adrian. Brown hair, big, dark eyes like Clara's, but the shape of his face was his. The resemblance was undeniable. "Hi," Leo said, hiding behind Isabella's leg. Adrian knelt down to be at the boy's level, his heart beating fast. "Hi, Leo. I'm Adrian." Leo studied him with childish curiosity. Then he pointed to the bag. "Some things for you," Adrian said, opening the bag. "Want to see?" Leo's eyes widened when he saw the toys. He picked up a red car, examining it with fascination. Isabella watched everything carefully, ready to intervene at the slightest sign of a problem. But Leo seemed enchanted with the gifts. And Adrian, There was a tenderness in his eyes that she hadn't expected to see. They sat on the porch floor. Leo started pushing the cars. Adrian, who had never played with a child in his life, tried to keep up. "This is Daddy's car," Leo said, handing him a blue car. "It's very fast." Leo laughed, a crystal-clear sound that filled Adrian's heart. Isabella, who was listening from the kitchen while preparing juice, felt something strange in her chest. Adrian's voice had completely changed when he spoke to Leo. It was softer, more human. Adrian appeared at the kitchen door, shyly. "He's amazing," he murmured. "Smart. Clara did a wonderful job." "She was an extraordinary mother," Isabella agreed, her voice filled with longing. "She dedicated every free minute to him." "I should have been here," Adrian said, watching Leo play. "I should have known him since he was born." "You should have," Isabella confirmed without softening. "But you're here now. The question is for how long?" Adrian looked at her. "For as long as he needs me. Forever." "Easy to say," she countered. "Hard to do, especially when you find out that children don't follow meeting schedules." As if to prove her point, Leo started crying. Isabella ran to him, picking him up. "Shh, my love. Auntie is here." Adrian approached, not knowing what to do. Isabella gently wiped the boy's tears, whispering words of comfort. As if by magic, the crying stopped. "There you go," she said. "Oh, you're all better." Adrian watched the scene with a mixture of admiration and envy. Isabella knew exactly what to do. How to calm Leo. How to make him feel safe. He didn't know any of that. "How did you learn?" he asked, when Leo went back to playing. "Learn what? To be so good with him? To know what he needs?" Isabella looked at him in surprise. "I didn't learn it anywhere. He's my nephew. I've always been here." "I don't know anything about children," Adrian admitted. "I don't know how to calm him when he cries. I don't know what he likes to eat. I don't know what his fears are." "Then learn," Isabella said, but her voice had lost some of its hardness. "No one is born knowing how to be a father. Can you teach me?" The question caught her by surprise. Adrian Morrison, the successful businessman, was asking her for help? "Why?" she asked, suspicious. "Because you know Leo better than anyone. Because he trusts you. And because," he hesitated, "because I want to do the right thing this time." Isabella studied his face. There was sincerity there, but also fear. Fear of not being good enough, of hurting Leo, of failing as a father. "All right," she finally said. "But there are rules. First, Leo always comes first. It doesn't matter if you have an important meeting or a business deal to close. If he needs you, you have to be here. Agreed. Second, you can't just appear and disappear from his life. If you start this, you have to finish it. I won't let him go through a second abandonment. I won't abandon him," Adrian said firmly. "I promise. Third, you'll have to learn to live in his world, not the other way around. That means less suits and ties, more clothes that can get dirty, less fancy restaurants, more playgrounds." Adrian looked at his impeccable suit, already with a few smudges from playing with the cars. "I can handle that." "We'll see," Isabella repeated, but this time with less distrust. "Today is pasta with tomato sauce," she warned. "Nothing fancy." "Perfect," Adrian smiled. "It's been a long time since I had pasta." While Isabella prepared lunch, Adrian played with Leo on the living room rug. The boy had an inexhaustible energy and a curiosity that fascinated him. After lunch, Leo got sleepy. Isabella took him to his room, and Adrian followed, curious about his son's routine. Leo fell asleep quickly, and Adrian stood there, looking at his son's serene face. He seemed so small, so fragile. How could he protect him from all the dangers of the world? "Let's let him sleep," Isabella whispered. They left the room in silence. In the living room, Adrian sat heavily on the sofa. I don't know if I can do it, he murmured. Do what? Be the father he deserves. Be half of what Clara was as a mother. Isabella studied him. For the first time, she saw real vulnerability in Adrian Morrison. You don't have to be Clara, she said, sitting beside him. You have to be yourself, the best of you. What if that's not enough? Then you get better every day. That's what parents do. They were silent, listening to the sound of Leo's quiet breathing from the room. Thank you, Adrian finally said. For what? For not kicking me out of here, for giving me a chance. I'm not doing this for you, Isabella replied. I'm doing it for Leo. He deserves to have a father. Even so, thank you. What do you think is harder? Being a father for the first time, or learning to trust someone new? Comment with your opinion. A cold heart begins to thaw. 3 weeks later, Adrian was sitting on the floor of the Suttons' living room, completely lost. Leo had woken up at 5 in the morning with a fever, vomited in the car on the way to the hospital, and was now refusing to take his medicine. The boy screamed, pushing the spoon of antibiotics away. Leo, you have to take this to get better, Adrian insisted, sweating more than he had in any business meeting. Just then, Isabella appeared at the door, returning from the pharmacy with more medicine. She had left to give Adrian a chance to care for his sick son alone. By the looks of it, it wasn't going well. Problems? She asked, trying not to smile at the scene. Adrian on his knees on the floor, his shirt crumpled, his hair messy, trying to negotiate with a 2-year-old. He won't take his medicine, Adrian said, defeated. I've tried everything. Let me see. Isabella knelt beside them. Hey, champ, how about I mix the medicine with a little juice? Leo looked interested. 5 minutes later, he was taking the medicine without complaining, nestled in Isabella's arms, while she sang softly. How do you do that? Adrian asked. Practice, she replied. And patience. Lots of patience. Adrian sat on the sofa, exhausted. In the last few weeks, he had discovered that being a father was infinitely more complex than running a company. Children didn't follow schedules. They didn't respond to logic, and they definitely didn't care about his agenda. I canceled 4 meetings today, he murmured. And you did the right thing, Isabella said, placing her hand on Leo's forehead to check his fever. When a child is sick, they need their parents. My business partner is furious. He said I'm losing my focus. Are you losing it or are you finding it? Adrian looked at her, confused. What do you mean? You spend 20 hours a day thinking about work. Now you have something more important to think about. Work is important too. It's how I support you. Why? No one asked you to support us, Isabella shot back. We asked you to be present. Leo began to doze in her lap, and Isabella adjusted him, stroking his hair. Do you know the difference between you and Clara? She asked. Her voice softer. What? She knew that being a mother meant giving up some things. You're still trying to fit Leo into your life instead of reorganizing your life around him. Adrian was silent, processing the words. In the last few weeks, he had really tried to maintain his normal routine, just fitting in visits to his son between meetings. It wasn't working. You're right, he admitted. But I don't know how to do it differently. My whole life has been built around work. Then it's time to build a new life. Adrian's phone rang. It was his secretary, probably about the meeting he had canceled. He looked at Leo sleeping, then at Isabella. I'm not going to answer it, he said, turning off his phone. Progress, Isabella smiled. They were silent, watching Leo sleep. The fever seemed to have gone down, and his breathing was calmer. Can I ask you a question? Adrian said. You can. Why did you give up everything to take care of him? You're young, smart. You could be building your own life. Isabella took a while to answer. When Clara died, Leo cried all the time. He wouldn't eat. My parents were too devastated to take care of him properly. She caressed the boy's face. Someone needed to be strong for him. Someone needed to be his anchor. And you chose to be it. It wasn't a choice. It was instinct. He needed me, just like he needs me now. Adrian understood. Exactly. Leo stirred in his sleep, mumbling something about his mother. Isabella soothed him with soft whispers. He still misses her, Adrian observed. He always will, but he's learning to live without her. Thanks to you, too. Me? You showed up when he needed a father figure most. You might not realize it, but he's more secure since you arrived. Adrian felt his chest warm. In the last few weeks, he had felt more like a nuisance than a help. It doesn't feel like I'm doing a good job. You were here at 5 in the morning when he woke up with a fever. You took him to the hospital. You stayed with him all day. You canceled important meetings. If that's not being a father, I don't know what is. Just then, her phone rang. It was Leo's school, asking if he would be in tomorrow. Probably not, Isabella replied. He still has a fever. I can stay with him, Adrian offered. You have that presentation tomorrow for the Japanese investors. Adrian was surprised she knew. Did you overhear me talking to my partner? Hard not to. You were pretty stressed. She smiled. But it's important, isn't it? It was, he corrected. Now the important thing is for Leo to get well. Are you sure? Absolutely. Isabella studied him. There was something different about Adrian. In the last few weeks, he had changed subtly. Less suit and tie, more jeans and a t-shirt, less talk about business, more interest in Leo's favorite cartoons. Less hurry, more patience. Want to know something? She said. What? I think you're doing better than you imagine. Really? Adrian looked at his son, sleeping peacefully in Isabella's arms. The idea of Leo losing his mother so early and him not being there bothered him deeply. I'd like to be here, he said, whenever he needs me, even if it means sleeping on the couch, even if it means sleeping on the floor. Isabella smiled, and Adrian noticed how beautiful she was when she smiled for real. Not the polite, cold smile she reserved for him, but a genuine, warm smile. You've changed, she observed. How? When we first met, you seemed like you were made of ice, controlled, distant, cold. Now, she hesitated. Now you seem human. I don't know if that's a compliment. It's the biggest compliment I can give you. They looked at each other for a moment, and Adrian felt a strange feeling in his stomach. It wasn't the first time he had noticed Isabella as a woman, but he always pushed those thoughts away. She was Clara's sister, Leo's aunt. Too complicated. Too much. Leo woke up at that moment, saving them from the tense moment. Auntie, Leo mumbled, still sleepy. I'm here, champ, Isabella said. Leo smiled and snuggled up again, but this time he extended an arm to Adrian too. Without thinking, Adrian moved closer, and Leo nestled in between him and Isabella. Adrian looked at Isabella over Leo's head and saw his own feelings reflected in her brown eyes. Confusion, tenderness, fear. They were becoming a family, but neither of them knew how to handle it. Isabella, he began. Shh, she whispered, gesturing to Leo. He's almost asleep again. But Adrian knew she was avoiding the conversation, just as he was avoiding admitting that his feelings for her were changing every day. When Leo was completely asleep, Isabella put him in his crib and returned to the living room. Adrian was in the kitchen, making tea. Thank you, she said, taking the cup he offered. For what? For staying. For canceling the meeting. For really trying. Thank you for teaching me. For being patient with me. We're a good team, she said, then blushed slightly, as if she had said something she shouldn't have. We are, Adrian agreed, and there was something in his voice that made Isabella look at him. The moment was interrupted by the arrival of her parents returning from work. How is he? Margaret asked, concerned. Better, Isabella replied quickly, moving away from Adrian. The fever went down. Adrian, you're still here, Robert observed, not without some approval. Good to know you didn't run away at the first sign of trouble. I don't plan on running, Adrian said. From anything. His eyes met Isabella's as he said it, and she felt her heart race. There was a promise in those words that went beyond fatherhood. When Adrian finally left, it was late at night. Leo had woken up twice more, but was quickly calmed by the presence of his father. He's getting attached to you, Isabella observed at the door. Is that good or bad? Good, she smiled. Very good. Isabella? Yes. Thank you for today. For everything. You don't need to thank me. We're for family now. Family. The word echoed in Adrian's head all the way home. For the first time in his life, he had a real family. And for the first time, it meant more to him than any business deal or professional achievement. Across town, Isabella was getting ready for bed, but her mind was restless. Adrian had indeed changed, and she was starting to see him not just as Leo's father, but as a man who was becoming harder and harder to ignore. Do you think Isabella is ready for a new love, or is her family right to be cautious? Share your thoughts below. A new home, a new life. You did what? Isabella almost dropped her coffee cup when she heard what Adrian had just announced. I rented a house here in the neighborhood, he repeated, smiling nervously. 3 blocks from here. I want to be closer to Leo. It was Monday morning, 2 weeks after the fever episode. Adrian had arrived early, as had become his habit, to have coffee with the family before Leo went to school. But you have a beautiful apartment downtown, Margaret protested. Why move here? Because that's not a home, Adrian replied, looking at Leo, who was happily eating a cookie. This is where my son is. It's where I should be too. Robert lowered his newspaper, studying Adrian intently. That's a very drastic decision. Are you sure you won't regret it? I'm sure. What about work? Isabella asked. You'll have to commute across the city every day. I've already talked to my partner. We're going to open a satellite office here on the west side. It makes business sense too. Isabella stared at him, surprised. Adrian had thought of everything, planned every detail. This was much more than an impulsive decision. Leo clapped excitedly as if he understood something, but Isabella still seemed worried. Are you sure this is what you want? She insisted. You're not just doing this out of obligation, are you? Isabella. Adrian looked at her directly. I already lost 2 years of Leo's life. I don't want to lose another day. There was something in the intensity of his gaze that made Isabella's heart race. She looked away, focusing on clearing the table. When are you moving in? Robert asked. At the end of the week. The house is furnished. I just need to bring some personal things. How about we go there after school today? I have a few things to do. She lied. Please, Adrian pleaded. You need to see if the house is good for Leo to live in. All right, she sighed, but only to see if it's safe for Leo. At 4 in the afternoon, the 3 of them were at the door of a charming single-story house with a front yard and a spacious backyard. It was simple but cozy, very different from Adrian's minimalist apartment. The house was perfect for a family. A large living room with a fireplace, an integrated kitchen, 3 bedrooms, and a study. Adrian had clearly chosen it with Leo in mind. This will be Leo's room, he said, opening the door to one of the bedrooms. Isabella watched everything in silence. Adrian's transformation was impressive. 2 months ago, he was a cold businessman who lived in an apartment that looked like a showroom. Now he was planning children's rooms and talking about backyards. What do you think? Adrian asked, approaching her. It's a beautiful house, she admitted. Perfect for a family. That's what I hope it will be. There was something in the way he said it that made Isabella look at him. His eyes were fixed on her, not on the house or on Leo. The afternoon sun created a golden and peaceful atmosphere. Thank you, Adrian said suddenly. For what this time? For coming. For approving the house. I didn't say I. Your smile said so. Isabella realized she was indeed smiling and tried to hide it. It's a good house for Leo, she admitted. He'll be happy here. And you? Will you come to visit? Probably. Someone has to make sure you're not feeding my nephew only pizza. Hey, I already learned how to make pasta. Instant pasta doesn't count. They laughed, and the sound seemed to echo through the silent backyard. It was a simple, domestic moment, but there was an intimacy there that neither of them could deny. Can I make a confession? Adrian said. You can. I'm nervous. What if Leo doesn't like sleeping here? What if he misses you? He'll miss me at first, Isabella said honestly, but he'll get used to it. Children adapt faster than adults. And you? Are you going to miss him? The question caught her off guard. Of course she would miss Leo. He had become the center of her life in the last few months. I will, she admitted. But I know it's the right thing to do. He needs to have a home with his father. You can always come here, Adrian said softly. Always. I don't want to get in the way of your new life. Isabella, he turned to her. You're not an intruder. You're family. You're one of the most important people in Leo's life. Without you, none of this would be possible. You would have figured out how to be a father on your own. No, he shook his head. I would have made 1,000 mistakes. You taught me everything. You taught me how to be a father. Isabella felt her eyes well up. In the last few weeks, she had worried about being left out of Leo's new life with his father. Adrian and Isabella looked at each other, not knowing what to say. Adrian slowly moved closer to kiss her. Isabella felt her heart beat dangerously fast. Adrian, we can't. Why not? Because it's complicated. Because you're Leo's father. Because I'm Clara's sister. Clara is gone, he said gently. And Leo needs both of us. But this isn't just about him, is it? Isabella looked at him, seeing the vulnerability in his eyes. What are you talking about? About the moments when our eyes meet. About the way my heart races when you smile. About how I feel complete when it's the three of us together. Adrian, I know you feel it too, he continued. I saw it in the way you look at me, how nervous you get when we're alone. Isabella stood up, flustered. Even if I felt something, I couldn't act on it. It would be a betrayal to Clara's memory. Would it be? Adrian stood up too. Or would it be honoring what she wanted most? For Leo to be happy and loved? It's not that simple. Maybe it's simpler than we think. They stood staring at each other, the tension palpable between them. It was Leo who broke the moment, crawling back to them. While Leo explored the toys on the floor, Adrian and Isabella kept a safe distance from each other. I need to go, she said suddenly. I promised my mom I'd help with dinner. Isabella, about what we talked about. We didn't talk about anything, she said quickly. You're moving here to be close to Leo, that's what this is about. But even as she said it, Isabella knew she was lying. It was about much more than Leo, and they both knew it. When they left, Leo was babbling excitedly. Isabella listened to everything with a forced smile, her mind still processing the conversation with Adrian. At the front door, Adrian said goodbye as always, with a kiss on Leo's forehead and a wave to her. But this time, his eyes lingered on hers, as if he wanted to say something more. See you tomorrow, he said. See you tomorrow, she replied, knowing that everything had changed between them, even if she wasn't ready to admit it. 2 weeks after the move, Isabella was in the kitchen of Adrian's new house at 7 in the morning, trying to save a pan of burnt porridge while he chased Leo around the backyard, trying to convince him to get dressed for school. Leo, you need to put on your shirt, Adrian shouted, holding the clothes while his son ran away, naked from the waist up. Thanks for coming to save me again. Don't thank me. It's for Leo. But as she said it, she avoided looking directly at him. Adrian was in his pajamas, his hair messy, with stubble that made him look more attractive, very different from the impeccable businessman she had met. Even so, thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you. You would learn, she said, Davra. Like all parents do. Isabella looked at Adrian through the kitchen window. They had fallen into a strange routine in the last 2 weeks. She would go to his house every morning to help with Leo. She would stay until he went to school, then come back in the afternoon to help with school activities. It was as if they were a real family, but pretending they were just friends taking care of a child. In the afternoon, the three of them were in the backyard planting beans in plastic cups. Leo watched the task very seriously, stirring the dirt with a small spoon and watering each cup carefully. They were sitting on the ground, dirty with dirt, completely relaxed. Isabella had changed her dress for an old pair of jeans and a cotton blouse, her hair in a messy ponytail. Adrian wore a simple t-shirt and shorts, far from any formality. While Leo was distracted with his experiments on the porch, Adrian and Isabella sat on the grass, watching him. "He's happy," Adrian observed. "He is. You're a good father, Adrian. I'm still learning. Everyone is always learning." They were in comfortable silence, enjoying the afternoon sun. It was a simple moment, but Isabella realized how good she felt there, how everything seemed right. "Can I ask you a personal question?" Adrian said. "You can. Have you ever wanted to have your own family? To date? Get married? Have children?" Isabella took a while to answer. "I've dated," she finally said. "But when Clara died and Leo came to live with me, there was no time for anything else. It wasn't fair to you. It was my choice. Even so, you sacrificed your personal life. I didn't sacrifice anything," she countered. "Leo gave me purpose. He gave me love. It wasn't a sacrifice." "What about now?" Adrian asked, looking directly at her. "Now that he has a father, are you going to get your personal life back?" The question made her uncomfortable. "I don't know. I haven't thought about it. Maybe you should think about it." "Why?" "Because you deserve to be happy. Completely happy." There was something in the intensity of his gaze that made Isabella feel exposed. "I am happy. Are you sure?" Before she could answer, Leo ran back to them with a running hose. Adrian ran to grab the hose, and in seconds, he was getting Leo and Isabella soaked. "Adrian!" Isabella laughed. Protect herself. "Sorry," he laughed, but continued to spray everything. "You're soaked!" Isabella laughed. "You are too," he countered, pointing to her wet blouse. Leo found it all very funny. In a few minutes, the three of them were completely drenched, laughing like children. "I think we've watered enough for today," Adrian said, finally managing to turn off the faucet. "That was fun. You both look like wet puppies," Isabella laughed. Adrian looked at Isabella, her hair plastered to her face and her clothes dripping, and he thought she had never looked so beautiful. "Do you want to come inside to dry off?" he offered. "Good idea," Isabella agreed. "Leo, you need to change your clothes." Inside the house, after changing Leo and letting him watch his favorite cartoon, Adrian offered dry clothes to Isabella. "I have some big t-shirts," he said, handing her a towel, "and I can lend you a pair of shorts." "Thank you." Isabella changed in the guest bathroom, putting on one of Adrian's t-shirts, which was huge on her, and a pair of shorts that she had to roll up several times. When she came out, she found Adrian in the kitchen, also in dry clothes, making hot chocolate. "To warm up," he explained. "Good idea." She sat on the kitchen counter, swinging her legs like a child. Adrian's t-shirt smelled like him, a masculine and familiar scent that made her nervous. "It looks good on you," he commented, looking at the t-shirt. "It's huge. It looks good anyway." Their eyes met, and again, that familiar tension arose between them. Isabella looked away first. "Leo is very quiet in the living room. He likes watching cartoons. I should check if he's okay." "Isabella." Adrian approached her. "Stop running away." "From me?" "I'm not running." "Yes, you are. Every time we're alone, you find an excuse to leave, because it's not right." "What's not right? Talking to me? Looking me in the eyes? You know what I'm talking about." Adrian stopped right in front of her, forcing her to look at him. Yes, I do. I'm talking about the same thing, about what's happening between us. Nothing is happening. You're lying. To me and to yourself. Isabella felt her heart race. Adrian was very close. She could feel the warmth radiating from him. Adrian, please, please what? Please stop what I'm feeling. Stop noticing how beautiful you are when you laugh. Stop wishing this were real. This what? Us, this family, this life. Isabella felt her eyes well up. We can't. It's too complicated. Why does it have to be complicated? He gently touched her face. Leo loves us. We get along. We work together. What if it doesn't work out? What if we ruin everything? What if it does work out? They were slowly getting closer, inevitably, when Leo's voice echoed from the living room. The moment was broken. Isabella jumped off the counter, moving away from Adrian. I'm going to check on Leo, she said, practically running away. Adrian was left alone in the kitchen, his heart still racing. They had almost kissed, and from what he saw in Isabella's eyes, she wanted it as much as he did. When Isabella returned, she had regained her composure. I think I need to go. My parents will wonder if I get home too late. Isa, thanks for the dry clothes. I'll give them back tomorrow. You don't have to. They look good on you. She blushed, picked up her wet clothes, and kissed Leo goodbye. At the door, Adrian walked her to her car. Isabella, about what happened in the kitchen. Nothing happened, she said quickly. Good night, Adrian. But as she drove home, Isabella could still feel his touch on her face, still hear his words echoing in her mind. What if it does work out? That was exactly what scared her. What if it did? What if she allowed herself to feel what she was feeling? What if they could really be a family? For the first time, Isabella began to consider that maybe it was worth the risk. The last test. A week later, the harmony was broken when Robert showed up at Adrian's house without warning, finding Isabella and Adrian preparing dinner together while Leo played on the kitchen floor. Dad? Isabella was startled to see him. What are you doing here? Robert observed the scene. Isabella in Adrian's apron, him chopping vegetables, Leo completely at ease. It looked like a perfect family. Maybe too perfect. I need to talk to you, he said. Serious? Both of us? Adrian and Isabella exchanged worried glances. People are talking. Talking about what? That you're living together. That Isabella spends all day here. That you look like a couple. And what's the problem? Adrian countered. We're taking care of Leo. The problem is that you're confusing things, Robert said. Isabella is his aunt. You're his father. You don't need to be glued to each other all the time. Dad, we're not doing anything wrong, Isabella protested. No. Then explain to me why you dropped out of nursing school, why you canceled the job interview you had scheduled, why your life revolves exclusively around this house. Isabella went pale. I had forgotten about the interview. I was helping with Leo's adjustment. The adjustment is done. Leo is fine. You don't need to stay here every day. But, Isabella. Robert's voice became softer. You're young. You need to live your own life, not be Leo's eternal nanny. I'm not a nanny, she said, hurt. I love Leo. No one is questioning that. But you're hiding here instead of facing the real world. Adrian interceded. With all due respect, Mr. Sutton, Isabella is essential for Leo's well-being, and for mine, too. Exactly. Robert looked at him. And there it is. The problem. You're leaning on each other too much. It's not healthy. Why? Adrian insisted. Because we work well together. Because you're playing house. And when the game is over, Leo is the one who will get hurt. The words hit Isabella like a slap. It was exactly what she feared. Maybe Dad is right, she murmured. Isabella. No, Adrian. Maybe I am. Getting in the way. You need to learn how to be a father on your own. I don't want to be a father on my own. I want you to be here. But for how long? She looked at him. Until you get tired. Until you meet someone. Until you decide you don't need me anymore. That's never going to happen. You can't guarantee that. Robert watched the discussion with satisfaction. He was managing to plant the doubt he needed. Isabella, you're coming with me, he said. Now. Dad, now. Isabella looked at Adrian, torn. Part of her wanted to stay, to fight for what they were building. But the rational part agreed with her father. Maybe she was deluding herself. I need to say goodbye to Leo, she murmured. In the living room, Leo protested, as if he knew Isabella was leaving. Isabella hesitated. Robert watched her carefully. I love you very much, Leo, she said, kissing his forehead. Adrian walked her to the door. Don't let him do this, he whispered. Do what? Destroy what we have? Maybe we have nothing to destroy. You know that's not true. Isabella looked at him one last time before following her father. There was pain in her green eyes, but also determination. That night, Leo cried a lot, but eventually fell asleep. Adrian stayed awake all night, thinking about Robert's words. Were they really playing house? Were his feelings for Isabella real, or just an illusion of a perfect family? The next day, Isabella didn't show up in the morning. Adrian had to take Leo to school alone, which resulted in him being late, burning breakfast, and a lot of stress. In the afternoon, when he went to pick Leo up from school, he learned from other mothers that Isabella had attended a job interview. The news hit him like a punch. Adrian realized how sad Leo was without Isabella, and how lost he himself was without her there. The house seemed empty, lifeless. 2 hours later, he couldn't take it anymore and went to the Sutton's house. He found Isabella in the backyard, helping her mother hang laundry. We need to talk, he said. There's nothing to talk about, she finally said. My dad is right. I need to take care of my life. And aren't we part of your life? You are your own life. I need to have mine. Since when are we you guys? It was the three of us. It was an illusion. Adrian approached, lowering his voice. Did you get the job? I did. I start on Monday. Congratulations, he said. But there was no joy in his voice. What about Leo? Leo has you. He has my parents. He'll be fine. And what about me? Will I be fine too? Isabella finally looked at him, and he saw tears in her eyes. You'll find someone more suitable for you. I don't want someone more suitable. I want you. Adrian. Stop. I love you. The words escaped before he could stop himself. Isabella dropped the clothes she was holding. Don't say that. Why not? It's true. Because it doesn't change anything. It changes everything. I can't, she whispered. I can't risk losing everything again. You won't lose anything. How can you guarantee that? Because I'll never leave. I'll never abandon you or Leo. Just like you never abandoned Clara. The question was a low blow, and they both knew it. Adrian recoiled, as if he had been slapped. That was different. Was it? Isabella turned to him, her face wet with tears. Or are you the kind of man who runs away when things get serious? You know I'm not like that anymore. I don't know anything. I haven't known you long enough. Then give me time. Give me a chance. I can't. She shook her head. I can't risk Leo's heart, or mine. Adrian stood still, watching her gather the clothes with trembling hands. He wanted to force her to look at him, to make her understand that his feelings were real. But he knew he couldn't. She had to reach that conclusion on her own. Leo wants to see you, he said finally. Tell him I love him, and I always will. And what about me? Don't you have a message for me? Isabella hesitated. Take good care of him. That's all that matters. Adrian nodded and left, knowing that he had lost much more than a nanny for Leo. He had lost the woman he loved and the family he had dreamed of. 2 weeks passed in tense silence. Isabella had started her job as a nurse at the local hospital, only making quick visits to Leo on weekends. Adrian struggled with the routine alone, discovering how much he depended on her. On a rainy Thursday, Isabella's phone rang during her shift. "Isabella?" It was Adrian, his voice tense. "Leo is at the hospital. He broke his arm." Her world collapsed. "What? How? Where are you?" "St. Luke's Hospital. He fell off the swing. I didn't know what to do. I'm on my way." Isabella left everything and ran to the hospital where she worked. She found Adrian in the waiting room, his face pale, his shirt stained with blood. "How is he?" she asked. Breathless. "In surgery. Simple fracture, but..." He ran his hands through his hair. "Isabella, he kept calling for you. He was in so much pain and I couldn't comfort him. You did the right thing by bringing him here. No, I failed. He wanted you, and I didn't know where you were." Isabella sat beside him, instinctively touching his hand. "You didn't fail. Accidents happen. He was playing on the swing, and I was on the phone. A work call that could have waited." The guilt in his voice touched her deeply. "Adrian, you're human. Parents make mistakes. You would have never made that mistake. I've made several. Remember when he was sick and I didn't even notice? You're the one who noticed the fever." They were silent, their hands intertwined without them realizing it. When the doctor appeared, the two of them stood up together. "The surgery was a success," the doctor announced. "He's waking up. The parents can go see him." Neither Adrian nor Isabella corrected the mistake. Leo was sleepy, but he smiled when he saw them. Isabella looked at Adrian, seeing the emotion in his eyes. That night, after Leo was asleep at the hospital, Adrian and Isabella went to have coffee at the cafeteria. "Thanks for coming," he said. "You don't have to thank me. It's for Leo. It's not just for Leo, Isa. I needed you too." She stirred her coffee without drinking, avoiding looking at him. "How has it been? The job?" "Good. Different, but good. Are you happy?" Isabella took a long time to answer. "I'm busy. It's not the same." "No, it's not. Leo misses you every day. And what about you? Do you miss me?" The question escaped before she could stop herself. Adrian smiled sadly. "Every minute of every day. Adrian, I know you're trying to move on. I know your father thinks it's for the best. But did you see today?" He leaned over the table. "We work well together. We always have. A crisis doesn't prove anything. It proves that when things get difficult, we support each other. We don't run away." Isabella felt her heart race. "I'm scared," she finally admitted. "Scared of what?" "Of falling in love with you. For real. Are you already in love?" "Not completely." "Then fall in love completely." He held her hand. "I promise it will be worth it. You can't promise that. I can, and I promise." "Isabella, I've never felt what I feel for you for anyone else. Not even Clara. Don't talk about my sister. I have to, because you're different. What I felt for Clara was passion. Intense, but fragile. What I feel for you is true love. Solid, deep, forever." Isabella felt tears in her eyes. "How can you be so sure?" "Because when Leo got hurt, the first person I thought to call was you. Because when I wake up in the morning, I think of you. Because when I see him laughing, I want to share that moment with you. Adrian, because you made me understand what a real family is. It's not just blood or obligation. It's a choice. Every day, I choose you." Isabella couldn't hold back the tears anymore. What if it goes wrong? What if it goes right? It was the same question he had asked weeks ago, but now it sounded different. It sounded like a promise. Leo would be sad if you disappeared from our lives," Adrian interrupted. "He needs you. I need you. You survived these 2 weeks on your own. I survived. I didn't live." Isabella looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. For 2 weeks, she had tried to convince herself that she could live without them. But today, when she learned that Leo was hurt, She realized she was just pretending to live. "If we do this," she said slowly, "it has to be real. It can't be just convenience or loneliness. It is real. And it has to be gradual, because of Leo. However you want. And what if my father doesn't approve? We'll win him over together." Isabella smiled for the first time in 2 weeks. "Are you sure you want me? With all my neuroses and fears, especially because of them. They're a part of who you are. And are you sure you want a simple life? Dinners at home, weekends at the park, discussions about homework. It's the only life I want." Isabella took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "Then maybe we can try." "Try what?" "Give us a chance. For real. This time." Adrian smiled, raising her hand to kiss it softly. "Thank you." "For what?" "For me giving you the chance to prove that we can be happy together. You haven't proven anything yet." She smiled. "But you can try. I'll spend my whole life trying." When they returned to Leo's room, Isabella watched father and son together, feeling her heart warm. Maybe Robert was wrong. Maybe they weren't playing house. Maybe they were building a real family. And for the first time in weeks, that no longer scared her. A family's legacy. A week after the accident, Leo was at home with a cast on his arm, being spoiled by Adrian and Isabella. The routine had normalized. She worked in the morning, had lunch with them, and stayed until night. That afternoon, while Leo was napping, she said, "He understands everything. Children are very sensitive. He wants you to live here." "Adrian, I want to too. It's too soon. For us or for him?" Isabella sighed. "For everything. We need to go slow." "How slow?" "I don't know. I've never done this before." Adrian approached her, touching her face. "Me neither. But I know I want to try." This time, when he leaned in to kiss her, she didn't pull away. The kiss was soft, hesitant, full of unspoken promises. 3 weeks after Leo's accident, life had found a new rhythm. Isabella had officially returned to her daily routine at Adrian's house. But now it was different. There was a sweet tension in the air, glances that lasted longer, hands that accidentally touched. It was a Friday night. Leo was sleeping peacefully. His cast had already been removed. When Isabella and Adrian met in the kitchen, "Want some coffee?" he offered. "I do." While Adrian prepared the drink, Isabella watched his movements. In the last few weeks, she had memorized every detail of him. The way he ran his hand through his hair when he was thoughtful, how he smiled when Leo did something mischievous, how his eyes lit up when she arrived. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, handing her the cup. "How everything has changed. For the better. Much better," she admitted. "Sometimes I'm afraid it's too good to be true." Adrian approached, standing very close to her. "Isabella, can I ask you a question?" "You can. If I kiss you now, will you run away again?" Her heart raced. "I don't know," she whispered. "Do you want to find out?" This time, when he leaned in, she didn't pull away. The kiss was soft at first, hesitant, as if they were both testing if it was real. Then it deepened, loaded with weeks of contained tension. When they separated, they were both breathless. "Wow," Isabella murmured. "That was my first time," Adrian said. "What do you mean?" "My first kiss of true love." Isabella felt her eyes well up. "Mine too." They kissed again, this time with more security, more certainty. When they stopped, Adrian leaned his forehead against hers. "I love you," he said, completely, irrevocably, forever. "I love you too," she replied. "And it terrifies me." "Why?" "Because I've never loved like this. Because I don't want to ruin what we have. We won't ruin it. We'll build it together." The next day, they woke up on the couch, in each other's arms. That afternoon, while Leo played in the backyard, Adrian and Isabella had a serious talk. "We need to tell my parents," she said. "Do you think they'll approve?" My mom will. My dad will take longer to accept. And you? Are you sure this is what you want? Isabella looked at him. Then at Leo, playing happily. I'm sure I want to try. For real this time. Even knowing it won't be easy. Especially because of that. The things that are worth it are never easy. Adrian pulled her into a hug. Thank you for giving me a chance. Thank you for changing, she replied. For becoming the man Leo needed, and that I needed too. I'm still changing. Every day. I know. And me too. They stayed in each other's arms, watching Leo play. That night, after putting Leo to sleep, they sat on the porch. Can I tell you something? Adrian said. Always. Today, when Leo called you Mommy Isa for the first time, I felt like we had finally become a real family. I felt the same thing. I'm not in a hurry, Isa. We can go at our own pace. What is our pace? Slow but steady. Building something solid. Isabella smiled. I like that pace. And I like you, he said, kissing her softly. Just like? I love you like crazy, he corrected. But I thought like sounded more romantic. Isabella laughed, and the sound echoed through the silent night. I love you like crazy too, she said. And for the first time, I'm not afraid of it. When they went inside to sleep, Isabella stayed on the couch again. But this time by choice, not out of necessity. They were building something special and wanted to do it right. The next morning, they planted white roses in the garden in Clara's honor, and as they worked together in the dirt, Adrian realized he had never felt so complete. His family was finally complete. 2 months passed in perfect harmony. Isabella had practically moved into Adrian's house, only spending a few nights at her parents' place. Leo grew with their constant attention, and Robert had finally started to accept his daughter's relationship. 6 months after their first kiss, Adrian finally gathered the courage to take the step he had been dreaming of for weeks. It was a Sunday afternoon, and he had left Leo with Isabella to have an important conversation. He knocked on the Suttons' door, his heart pounding, a small package in his pocket. Adrian! Margaret opened the door, surprised. Where are Isabella and Leo? Actually, I came to talk to you. Isabella is at home with Leo. Can I come in? Robert appeared in the living room, still suspicious, despite the months of harmonious coexistence. Did something happen? He asked. No, on the contrary. Adrian took a deep breath. I came to ask for something very important. The three of them sat in the living room where everything had begun months ago. But now the atmosphere was completely different. Mr. Sutton, Mrs. Sutton, Adrian began, visibly nervous. I know our story didn't start in the best way. I know I disappointed Clara, and as a consequence, I disappointed you. Robert crossed his arms, but his gaze had lost the hardness of their first meetings. But in these months, Adrian continued, I've learned what family really means. I learned that it's not about blood or obligation, but about choice. Every day, I choose to be Leo's father. Every day, I choose to love Isabella. Adrian, Margaret began. Please, let me finish, he pleaded. Isabella has transformed my life. She taught me to be a father. She taught me to love for real. She taught me that there is something much greater than any professional success. Leo already calls me daddy, naturally. He already calls Isabella mommy. We are a family in every sense, except on paper. Robert leaned forward. What are you asking? I'm asking for Isabella's hand in marriage. I want her to be my wife officially. I want us to be a real family. The silence that followed seemed eternal. Margaret's eyes were welling up. And Robert was smiling. Are you sure you can make her happy? The patriarch asked. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying. And Leo, are you sure you can be the father he needs? I already am the father he needs. Now I want to be official. Robert stood up and extended his hand to Adrian. Welcome to the family, son. 2 weeks later, on a sunny Saturday afternoon, Adrian prepared a surprise for Isabella. He asked her to get ready and picked her up without revealing their destination. "Where are we going?" she asked in the car, with Leo in the back seat playing with his toys. "You'll see." When they arrived at the park where he had taken Leo a few times, Isabella was surprised by the number of cars parked. "Is there an event here today?" "Yes." "There is," Adrian smiled mysteriously. They walked through the park until they reached a small gazebo decorated with white flowers. There were Isabella's parents, some close friends, her co-workers, and even Dr. Grant. "Adrian, what is this?" Isabella asked, beginning to understand. "Isabella Sutton, you've completely changed my life. You taught me to love, you taught me to be a father, and you showed me what really matters. Will you marry me?" Leo clapped, not completely understanding the situation, but feeling the joy in the air. "Yes!" Isabella shouted before he even finished the question. When Adrian placed the ring on her finger, everyone applauded. Leo ran to them, and the three hugged, forming a perfect circle. 3 months later, the ceremony was held in the same park on a perfect spring morning. Isabella wore a simple but elegant dress, with white flowers in her hair. Adrian was impeccable, but his eyes only had attention for his bride. Leo, dressed in a small suit, carried the rings on a cushion, guided by Margaret. He didn't completely understand what was happening, but he smiled at everyone, feeling the happiness around him. "Adrian Morrison," the officiant said, "do you take Isabella Sutton to be your wife, to love and cherish her, in sickness and in health, until death do you part?" "I do," Adrian replied, his voice choked with emotion. "Isabella Sutton, do you take Adrian Morrison to be your husband, to love and cherish him, in sickness and in health, until death do you part?" "I do," she said, tears of happiness streaming down her face. When they exchanged rings, Leo clapped enthusiastically, making everyone laugh. "By the power vested in me by the law, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." The kiss was soft, full of promises, sealing not just a marriage, but the official formation of a family that already existed in their hearts. 1 year later, it was a Sunday morning, and the house was full of life. Leo, now almost 4 years old, played in the backyard, while Adrian and Isabella prepared lunch together. "What are you thinking about?" Isabella asked, noticing her husband's distant look. "How it all began," he replied, wrapping his arms around her waist. "A call that changed my life forever. The best inheritance I could have received. Not just Leo," Adrian said, kissing her neck. You two were my true inheritance." As they watched Leo play in the garden, where the white roses planted in Clara's honor were blooming beautifully, Adrian understood that he had found much more than he had ever dreamed of. His unexpected inheritance had not just been a son. It had been a complete family, a true love, and the discovery that life's greatest riches cannot be bought or inherited. They can only be lived day after day with the people we choose to love. The Unexpected Inheritance, a story about discovering that true love is the only inheritance that truly matters. Your interactions are very important to us. Please leave your name in the comments, and we may include you in one of our stories with a special shout-out, just for you.